Good morning, good morning. Oh, it's another lovely day in paradise. Just shut all that. Just mowed all that grass yesterday. 3 hours or so. Oh, sorry if you can hear some banging around in the back. It's my petrol cans. I have to get petrol to fill the mower up. Although, but you know, something tells me that it's too quiet at the moment. There's fuel protests all over the world, and we're being told that the fuel supply for the UK is pretty well secured, and so we don't need to panic, you know. So I think I don't know why we're not panicking, because we are pretty dim as a nation when it comes to scares and panics. And so we normally would be out queuing up for toilet rolls at this point, but we're not. And I think that's down to the concerted effect from the government to tell us that there's really nothing to worry about. Even to the point where old Rees Mogg, the Mogster, has gone on telly saying, if you feel like filling up, fill up. Don't panic about filling up, but just, if you need petrol, go and fill up. And it's also being run with a bunch of stories about how we're generating so much solar power and wind power in this country that in the summer, if it's a windy day, then we might all be invited to use electricity for free, which is like, it's the most ridiculous idea that they're ever going to give away electricity for free. They had, this has got echoes of Queen Elizabeth's promise when she opened the first nuclear power station, isn't it? That one day electricity will be free. Electricity will never be free, okay? If you think it's going to be given away for free, then you're stupid. It's never going to be cheaper for them to give it to you for nothing than it is for them to just use it for something else, more likely. Not they won't turn it off, they just use it for something else. I don't know what they'll use it for. Perhaps they'll use it for aluminium smelting or Bitcoin mining. I don't care, but they won't give it to you for nothing, okay? This is all designed to try and just to build up this massive, great illusion of energy security in this country. And the fact that renewables are so brilliant that we're actually all going to get free electricity from them. And we don't need to. This is a milliband. I detect the thumb of milliband on the scales here. That we are so close to getting free electricity from renewables. Why bother drilling oil and gas and coal? Although coal would definitely be the quickest way out. Look at those fields, aren't they lovely? I wonder what they're going to do with them. They've got the earth all heaped up there. I dare say they're going to, I don't know, perhaps they're going to put cauliflowers in them or something. Brussels sprouts, that's a good one. Certainly not wheat. Anyway, yeah, another type of propaganda which is going on at the moment is what I call the warfare, not welfare. President Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex and warned about that would, suck the life out of public funds with the warmongers. I've been on a big push in the last sort of 5 years or so, I'd say, to try and get us to spend more on weapons, which is a bit like toilet cleaner. You go down Tesco's, you buy your toilet cleaner, you come home, you pour it down the toilet and flush it away. They got the same sort of business model. They get you to spend £500,000 on a single missile, and you fire it off, it blows up, and that's it. You need a new one. So Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and all these people, it's massive money, and because it's massive money, they've got massive lobbying budgets, and therefore you'll start to find that politicians and the news, mainstream media is going to start saying what they want to say, what suits the weapons industry. I don't think we do need to. I mean, they're trying to push defence spending up to 5%. I think as a member of NATO, we don't really need to have defence spending at 5%. That's the whole point of being together in NATO, is that, like, if there's 5 of you in NATO, you only need to spend 1%, don't you? And we're not all on the front line. I mean, you might say, yeah, well, we are with ballistic missiles, but I think that's too much of a stretch. There's, did you know that one missile went towards our base in Cyprus? Oh, did you know one missile went towards our base in Diego Garcia? Oh, did you know that theoretically Iran could launch a blob of ballistic missile and it could reach London? This is all fanciful. This is all the absolute edge, the absolute fringe of trying to get people to believe, because they know that we won't tolerate any more taxation or money printing, even to pay for more war. And they have to get the public to agree to the war. And they've come up against a bit of a block, really, in their campaign for more war, in that people are making, I think, quite justifiably, the argument, why spend £1 billion on missiles that we're going to blow up, fighting an enemy which is really only a complete stretch of the imagination as to whether they're a threat to us, when you could spend £1 billion on UK citizens who need better everything, really. Better. Not that I think that the solution to the National Health Service is necessarily spending more money on it, but I think spending all that money on missiles that are just going to get blown up abroad is just a complete. There's always a better place to spend the money domestically. So they're losing this argument, and people are saying, well, why? Look, we've got 3 places to put every halfpence at home. Why are you going mad about? And so they've come up with a counter argument, which is that what's the point of having a welfare state if you're under the jackboot of the Russians, or if the North Koreans are in charge? So really, what they've sort of given away the fact that they think defence spending trumps everything. That if you have no defence, you have no anything. So they will take baby milk formula out of the mouths of babies to spend on missiles, because what's the point of feeding babies if they're going to get blown up? It's sick. It's sick, and it shouldn't be tolerated, but it's just a product of the money, the lobbying system, I think, and the way that people get elected in this country, that they increasingly rely on, they don't just rely on votes, they rely on support from various people, various lobbyists, various ethnic groups. So we've gone completely into a propaganda, type of environment, which is worthy of the old Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in terms of what we're being told. And the other thing that's big at the moment is something I spoke about, it must have been, perhaps a year ago or 2 years ago or something. And that is the inevitable consequence of overprinting the currency, which means that its value gets debased and prices go up. And everybody knows the word inflation, but most people think of inflation in prices. Whereas in fact, as we've discussed, inflation really means an increase in the supply of money and credit. And what happens is a big increase in the supply of money and credit causes an increase in in prices of everything else, including food. So you have to look first at the money printing. Now, the consequence of that is that all inflation really is caused by the government, because the government prints the money and borrows and increases overall the supply of money and credit. And they do it like that because really for the most part, the public don't really understand what's happening. They're told that inflation is 2%, 3%. One year it was 10. And they treat it like the weather, like, oh, well, we've had a typhoon this year. And so unfortunately, inflation's been 10%. Now, the problem is that when prices keep shooting up, they've worked out that the ideal increase in prices is about 2%. And 2% a year is, obviously, it's 10% every 5 years. And when you get to my age, 66, you tend to look back with astonishment at how much the money's been debased over your lifetime. I mean, you can imagine, let's say that I started getting aware of prices when I was 16. So 50 years of monetary debasement in my lifetime. So that means that the money now, let's say in round prices, is probably can buy 1% of what it used to buy when I was in my teens. And I can remember the milestones, I remember petrol going over £1 a gallon. This is in the old days when we used to charge in gallons. I mean, £1 a gallon, that's about 25 pence a litre, 20 pence a litre. And motorists were outraged that petrol was more than £1 a gallon. I can remember when fillet steak went over £1 a pound, because I worked in the butchers. And again, it was a sort of what the Barry Cockcroft would have called a totemic increase in prices. So you realise that, and then the government's got the cheek to charge you capital gains tax on what the nominal increase in the value, although there's no increase in value, there's just an increase in price. So what happens is that when things start getting out of control, and I'm not just talking about our society now, I'm talking about over the years, Greek society, Roman society, the government starts to bring in price controls, and in areas which are totemic, where the public finds it they're sensitive to these increases. They say, don't worry, these people are profiteering. We'll step in. We'll keep the prices down for you. And they don't look at history and realise that this has never worked. They do look at history and they realise it's never worked, but then they think to themselves, well, we've got no choice. Price controls never work. All that happens is that the stuff that is, being sold at below market price due to government edict just disappears off the shelves and it gets sold under the counter. So the thing at the moment that's causing problem, believe it or not, is ticket prices. In the same way that the government is trying to dress up an idea that they should know the identity of everybody on the internet, because they pretty much lost control of the mainstream media. And they've realised, probably 5 years, 10 years too late, really, that the public is more than capable of getting their own news off of Reddit or Facebook or whatever. They've now belatedly, which is the way that government always does everything, launched this campaign to try and get everybody to identify themselves before they go online, because what they'd like to know is who is anti-government, who is not, who doesn't agree with the government line on everything. And with the regulated media, your ITNs and your BBCs, of course, they are very, very strictly regulated, and you can't say anything that's anti-government. In fact, the BBC was set up as a government broadcasting service, so it was set up to get the government line across. So any idea that it's unbiased, I think, is just, again, put forward by people who don't know their history. But having lost control of the narrative, they now want to know who's responsible for the narrative. And so by sort of dressing this up as an idea to bring in social media, for the under 16, a ban, first of all, they haven't made the case. Everyone who comes on says, oh, it's really terrible, social media for the under 16s, but nobody's really sort of explained why. I see no evidence of harm. I'm not saying people don't kill themselves and people don't get anorexia and search for recipes for writing and stuff like that. But I think we always used to do that. My parents had a set of encyclopedias, and in the encyclopedia was the formula for gunpowder. And my brother, when my parents died, my brother asked if he could have the encyclopedias. And I know why he wanted them, because he wanted the recipe for gunpowder. He thought it was quite cool to have that. Not that I've got the slightest suspicion that he's ever blown anything up. I mean, his name's not Guy Fawkes. But anyway, what you can do is you can say, well, we want to keep under 16-year-olds off social media. But as a consequence of that, oh dear, what a shame, everyone's going to have to provide some ID so that we can then find out, really, if we need to, if you're saying something that's we don't like, we can actually find out who you are. So all the evidence from Australia, and they've just literally started getting the evidence in, which of course they're stupid enough to do it, first of all, is that 60% of the people who are supposed to be banned are not banned. They're just finding their way around it. And I don't blame them. I think it's a stupid law, and I'm not going to condemn them for trying to get around it. And it's like everything else. It's like all this ban on under 18s going on porn sites. It's trivial to circumvent. It's under 17s going on social media sites. It's trivial to circumvent. And the fact that it's so high, 60% of people are circumventing it, leads me to suspect that it does not have widespread public support. It seems to me that half of the mums and dads are actually just saying, look, I'll set up a social media account on your phone. This is the password. If you want to use it, please do. So the government is just... the answer, which is to sort of really criminalise having a virtual private network, VPN, which allows you to use another sort of anonymous third-party computer in another country, even as if you were using it yourself, is impossible. This absolutely characterises what I've always said about governments. They do the easy stuff straight away, the difficult stuff that takes time, and then they falter at the stuff which was impossible, and they always knew was impossible right from the beginning. So they're doing price control on tour tickets, Taylor Swift and stuff like that. They're saying that they shouldn't be resold at more than the face value, which is basically price control. It's the first step, really, I think, obvious step of price control. And they're doing it, and people say, yeah, that's great, I'll get a Taylor Swift ticket for 12 quid, whatever. A, that's not what's going to happen. And B, if you buy a second-hand Taylor Swift ticket, and let's say that and this is the Competitions Market Authority, this is the dental connection. They're the people that have been put in to do an inquiry into dentistry. Cheeky. And they, for example, have looked at police and fire brigade radios, and there's a contract to replace all the police radios, and it's been awarded to, I think, to Motorola, or it was. Anyway, the point is, it's £3 billion over budget, and about 5 years behind schedule, and it's not going to come until 2029. And Motorola, who actually holds the contract for the existing radios, having paid Motorola 100 million for the 4-year contract, we are now having to pay them 50 million for another 6 months just to keep the old system running. This is private contracting. This is public sector contracting with a private company, and you can see how wasteful it is, how inefficient it is. Whereas Taylor Swift tickets, they're in the free market as far as I'm concerned. If Taylor Swift wants to sell her tickets, or Coldplay or whatever, or Oasis, they want to sell their tickets at extortionate hundreds of pounds, possibly thousands of pounds, then that's fine. That's up to anyone who wants to buy a ticket, whether it's worth that sort of money, isn't it? And if they decide it's not worth that sort of money, then Oasis is going to be playing to empty stadia. So, but, as soon as the government starts getting involved and bringing in price controls, it's the Fender regime. It's the government's the worst anyway, because in Kent, I know, for example, I wanted to go to the last Olympics, but I couldn't do that because they're saying that now that the supermarket's going to put electronic price tags on their goods, and the worry is that when it's hot, they'll put up the price of ice cream. And I'm totally fine with that. If they put it up too much, they won't sell any ice cream. The whole point about the free market is that someone's got something, they want to sell it, they set a price, someone comes along, they decide if they want it and whether they want to pay the price, and then if they both agree, then the thing gets sold and bought. So if Tesco suddenly doubles the price of their ice cream, nobody buys it, then Tesco's are shafted, aren't they? They've got a load of ice cream that they haven't sold. So don't worry about surge pricing. What you should do is worry about monopolistic pricing, which is what happens with the Olympics, whereby they say, well, the 100 meters final that day, what's the most you're prepared to pay? Tell us how much the maximum you're prepared to pony up to go to that. And then they took like the first 50,000 people, the top 50,000. That's surge pricing. And that's why, even though the Olympics was literally held 60 miles away from me, I couldn't afford to go because I wasn't going to pay them £3,000 for a ticket, which really should have been going for about 50 or 100. And not only that, the added insult that they constructed the HS1 high-speed railway to go from Kent to London to the stadium, and they paid that back out of an increase in the fares on that line, which is the line I use. So I had the ignominy of having to pay for the railway for everybody else, every other bugger, to go to the Olympics that I couldn't afford to go to. So, so propaganda and price control are the two themes today, and neither of them does anyone any good, and we're suffering from both of them at the moment. Anyway, we'll see what the CMA does to dentistry. Have a good weekend. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.